Welcome back to Magoo's Views. All right, y'all. So this is some movie news, some comic book news. So, I'm a big superhero fan and stuff like that. So the Batman Knightfall comic books that came out in the 90s are going to be turned into animated movies. DC has announced it at their New York Comic Con panel. Like I said, this news came out a couple days ago. I'm finally getting to it, but I'm really excited for this because I do like a lot of the DC animated stuff. But anyway, yeah, it says DC animated animation. The first part of Batman Knightfall is slated to come out in 2026. And it's going to be broken up into parts, right? Now, this comes from Variety. I just want to read this paragraph off real quick. Pretty much says the film is based on the Batman comic book art of the same name that was released in 3 parts between 1993 and 1994. It was created by Doug Moench, Chuck Dixon, Alan Grant, Dennis O'Neil, Peter David, Joe Duffy, Jim Harper, Graham Nolan, Norm, I always mess up his name, and Jim Blant. Like, I remember when Knightfall came out in the 90s, and pretty much it's the story. It's the first introduction of Bane. This is the first introduction of Bane we see in the story, and pretty much how calculated and how ruthless Bane was. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a very great story and like a deep dive in the psychology of Batman. This is the infamous storyline where we see Bane, he breaks Batman's back and stuff like that. So it's very good. And I like the fact that they're breaking into stories, because after that, you see, Jean Paul Valley, he comes in, as, oh, my bad. Anyway, I'm back here to it. Jean Paul Valley, he comes back into it as Batman. He's filling in for Bruce Wayne at the time. But, Tim Drake is there, which they did announce Tim Drake is in the movie. So I think that's very cool. Of course, Nightwing is there, Catwoman. But the main thing I really do like about the story is, like, you see how calculated Bane is, like, from the jump. Because Bane says it, like, in the book. I remember he released all the villains from Arkham because he was like, yo, Batman at his peak, when he's at the top of his game, like, that's going to be a tough fight for me, So what I'm going to do is, he was calculated. He let all the villains of Arkham go because he's like, he's not going to sleep until all of them, when they back in jail. So what I'm going to do is, when he's at his weakest, that's when I'm attacked. So you literally see Batman. That's why I think it's broken into parts. Go after everybody. All the villains that was out, he literally goes after all of them. And you could see Bane, like, scoping them out from, a distance and seeing, like, how weary and tired he's getting. He's like, all right, he's almost, kind of like, you cook a meal, when the meal's ready, So that's how he was treating it, the whole situation. So it was a great story. I remember, because my uncle, he got me into collecting comic books and stuff like that. I remember him actually showing me the book where Batman's back is broken. I remember as a kid, like, it was like, whoa, like, that was something we haven't seen before. Like, because at the time, DC had the death of Superman, where Superman's passed, then Batman gets his back broken. So it was a really cool time for comic books and stuff like that. And then, of course, you see Bruce Wayne go through everything as far as, like, coming back and then returning as Batman, to take back the mantle against, Jean Paul Valley, who took over Batman. So it's a very good story, and I'm very happy. And I remember saying to a friend of mine, I was like, they need to do a Knightfall storyline and break it up. I think that's a great idea because it's a very long story, and it's something that needs that attention. Now, I'll give you a great example. Like, when DC did their Injustice films, I thought they did an injustice with those films, no pun intended, because that's something they could have took their time on. Like, literally break that up. Those are very long stories. So to sit there and kind of, put it all into one movie, like, nah, you did yourself an injustice. Again, no pun intended. Like, that should have took its time, but I like the fact that they're doing that for the Knightfall series. But anyway, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hope everybody has a blessed day, and I'll see y'all soon. Have a good one.